In 5 steps, you'll have all the skills you need to analyze a book from start to finish. You'll be able to walk away from books wiser and more satisfied with yourself. You'll leave behind all the typical frustrations of shallow, passive reading. With these 5 steps, I built a productive reading life I can actually be proud of. Diving into a book is no longer intimidating because I have that clear, defined system to approach it. And all of that builds up into real knowledge, the kind that you'll carry forever and the kind that changes how you see the world. What I have to show for that is my archive of notes. These are a collection of hundreds of notes, tens of thousands of words, all of these valuable ideas I picked up along the way and can carry with me. Step 1 is to create a mental map, because a strong analysis begins before the first page, before you've even started the book. To give myself a better foundation of what's to come, I like to form this mental map, and it'll give me clarity and direction later on. And don't worry, it only takes like 10 or 20 minutes. It's really a tiny investment. To build this mental map, I answer 2 questions. And the first is, what is the main idea of the book? Because most authors, at least not the weird ones, they don't like to freestyle. They pick an idea, a big idea, and then they divide it into subtopics or sub-ideas. And those are the chapters. But they all center around this big idea. So if you, the reader, understands this big idea, this idea that everything else is built around, you'll just understand the book easier. Every chapter will make more sense and every point will make more sense because it's all building up to that big topic. Now, most authors make their big idea obvious. You know, it's usually in the title or the subtitle, and it's not hard to see. But not always. Some are more cryptic, they hide it from you a bit. And so it's up to you to find it. And again, it's so easy, like it really takes just minutes. That could involve you looking in the contents page. It could involve you looking at the blurb. And even though it's rare, it does happen that you might have to go into the book to kind of probe what the author's trying to say. Now, you'll probably never have to go that far, but it's still great to understand the main idea and keep it in mind as you go. The second question to build a mental map is, why is the book divided the way it is? So you've understood the big idea, and now the natural next step is to see the subtopics. Why has the author decided to split the book in the way they have? Each chapter links back to the big idea somehow, and it's your job to kind of understand that. And that will give you your mental map to better navigate the book later on. Before you even approach a chapter, you'll remember that this chapter is about this and it connects to the main topic because of XYZ. It's that direction and clarity, and it's so precious for reading. Now, I recently read a book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger, and it's a sort of memoir, anthropology, psychology style of book. And it's a perfect example to show this off, because the main idea of this book is how humans get a sense of fulfillment and meaning from belonging to a group. Then he talks a lot about how modern society has messed up that balance and has kind of distorted the way we connect to others. Okay, so that's the big idea down. But then if we look at the contents page, there's actually 4 major topics. And each one of those concerns a different aspect of society, a different issue, a different problem to be solved. But ultimately, everything relates back to the main idea of this book: meaning, connection, and society. And because you formed that mental map, you now have a clear picture of what's to come. And that'll make your analysis so much stronger in the end. It's like the scaffolding that you're going to build upon as you dive in for like a proper deep look. The second and most important step in your analysis is to read with a pencil in hand. For being just a simple stick of wood, it's so powerful for your learning. It will really take it to new heights if you're not already doing it. I think I can credit like 90% of my progress to just writing in books. And I'm so annoyed that I didn't start sooner. It's really that powerful. When you read a book, you're not being lectured to. You're actually having a conversation with the author. Because that is what literature is at the end of the day. It's authors talking to each other, it's authors talking to themselves, and it's authors talking with us and the world. And we're part of that big conversation. Reading without a pencil is like sitting out of that conversation alone. If you want to engage in the discussion and really learn from it, then you have to talk back to the author. And you do that with your pencil. Now, there's 3 ways that a simple pencil can boost your understanding. First of all, it forces you to think. Because when we read, we tend to drift off sometimes. And we tend to think we can absorb everything passively. But that is not the case. If we really want to have a deep analysis, then we have to force our mind to think. And we do that by introducing this active element into the book. By writing, we have to think and wrestle with the ideas. Second of all, writing is amazing for organizing your thoughts. I swear some authors just don't want you to understand sometimes. You read their work and you think, could you not have said this a bit easier? Or could you not have helped me out here when I'm trying to learn what you have to say? And I'm sure you felt that too at some point. You pick up a book and you're excited to get into it. But the author just blabbers on. They use complicated words, their ideas are a mess, and it's really hard for you to just understand what they're saying, let alone do a deep dive into it. It slows your reading down, it irritates you, and it just makes reading boring, to be honest. And that's where writing comes in to save you. By writing in the book, you can organize your thinking. You rephrase points, you connect ideas, and you really pick the book apart. It's like divide and conquer. You take these big, messy blocks of ideas, and by writing, you arrange them, and you make them easy to, not only to follow, but you make them easy to understand. That's the theory behind it, but if you want to apply that, then there's more on that in the later step. Now, the third benefit of reading is more of a quality of life thing, because if you write in your book and, as I said, make it easier to navigate, it saves your future self so much work and effort. By writing in the book, you make it your own, and you personalize it. And whenever you come back to your notes, which you will have to do at some point, you've created this direction for yourself. And it's so much easier to just see what stood out to you instantly. All it takes you is to flick back and you can see immediately the ideas that stood out to you, any questions you might have had, or any links you formed. It's all there ready and waiting for you, just because you took the time in to write a bit. If you didn't write notes and you came back to the book later, you'd be forced to kind of reread everything and re-understand everything. And that's a pain in the arse. It takes time, it's slow. It just adds friction to your analysis, which no one wants. If I wanted to, I could pick out any book in this pile here that I've read, and because I've made notes in it, it's so much easier for me to just jump back into it and really see what I was thinking. It makes your analysis smooth and seamless. Step 3 is to talk to the book, and not because you're lonely, but because you understand it better if you do. We know the theory of taking notes, and we know how it's an amazing tool in our arsenal, but then how do we actually apply that? How would you actually go about writing in the book to make it stand out to you the most? Over the many years I've been actually writing in my books, my style of, discussion has changed a lot. The way I interact with the book has evolved. So in that time, I've tried a lot of different techniques, and I want to share with you the best ones, the ones that make your analysis as strong as possible. My absolute favorite idea is to take an important point the book said and rephrase it in my own words. And you might not like what I'm going to say next, but if you're just underlining your points, then it's next to useless. And I'm going to explain that by giving you a superpower. Perfect memory. You'll remember everything you underline, word for word, without failure. That means the more you read, the bigger your bank of ideas gets. And whenever anyone asks you, you can essentially reiterate the words perfectly, and you can say exactly what the author said back to the person. But is that true wisdom? Would you call yourself wise if you can do that? No, of course not. Just because you can perfectly memorize a book, that doesn't mean you've understood it. True understanding and true wisdom comes from knowing the why and how behind the information, rather than just the information itself. When you underline key points in the book, even if you remember them perfectly, that's not enough to really do an analysis. And besides, you probably won't ever revisit them anyway, and they'll just kind of be lost. It's like in school when you go through a textbook and highlight everything. You're not really going to remember any of that unless you do something with it. When you write something in your own words, you're wrestling with the ideas. You're really taking it and making it part of yourself. It's how ideas truly come to life and actually change the way you see the world. And on top of that, you get the added benefit of memory. When you write in your own words, you don't have to force yourself to remember things word for word. The ideas just stick with you naturally because you've integrated them as part of your mind. And all because you took them and made them your own. Of all the note-taking techniques, that's by far the best one, and you can probably get away with just using that. But there's a few more techniques I want to share that have made my reading smoother and more productive. I love to write questions I have in the margin. So as I'm reading, and if something kind of raises a question, I'll put it down. I find that it stimulates your thinking. It encourages you to read on, trying to seek an answer to that question, like it's a little challenge or something. Maybe you'll find the answer, maybe you won't. It doesn't really matter, but the point is to have that goal of answering the question and really growing in mind. Second, I connect points to my existing knowledge. For example, let's say you're reading a book about the Byzantine Empire. You'll hear stories of emperors being overthrown, civil unrest, and all this kind of power struggle. And you might be reading that and think, hold on a second, this is what Machiavelli was writing about in The Prince. And even though it's not mentioned in the book, you've made that connection. Write that down. That's precious. Because that means you've taken what you already know and applied it in real life to understand another book. That is peak reading right there, and you should be proud. And the final writing technique I like to use is simple, and it's more of a quality of life thing. As you read and you see the important points and all the arguments, you kind of number them. So when you dive back into the book later on, you have this kind of ordered list. It's not hard for you to understand and see where the arguments are because it's all there for you. Maybe you do a numbered sequence of the arguments, or maybe you put a star or something to show you where the argument begins. Anything that makes the book easier to navigate. Your future self will thank you. Step 4 is to summarize each chapter in your own words. In the past few steps, you've used the humble pencil to really understand what the author's trying to tell you. And this step is the final blow. This is almost how you complete your analysis. You collect everything you've learned, all the major points, and you sum it up in this neat package at the end. At the empty pages on the back of a book or a separate notepad, you'll take all the ideas you learned and create a personalized summary of the book. And luckily for you, most of the work is already done because you've used your pencil to go through the book and find out the main points and already write notes on what you found. So you use those to help you write the summary at the end. And how you choose to do that is totally up to you. You can use lists, diagrams, bullet points, anything that lets you make this final report of the book almost. For example, this is how I did it in Tribe, the same book as before. I went to the back of the page, and I don't know if you can see that there, but I wrote each chapter heading and just kind of rough notes on the main ideas I learned. This is a really ugly page, so if you're going to do it neater than me, but I only keep it this ugly because I prefer to do it in a digital format later on. And there I put a much more detailed list of what I learned and really flesh out the notes. You can make the notes as detailed as you want or as brief as you want. It really is up to you. Whatever helps you learn the best. The point is to have a single place where you put all these notes so that you can take them away with you much easier. Now the fifth and final step is to save the best insights in your second brain. This step is how you make your analysis build up to something in the future. You may have encountered the second brain strategy before. It's a concept popularized by the famous creator and author Tiago Forte. To keep it simple, it's your personal archive of ideas. I've built my own, and so far it's about 550 notes with tens of thousands of words. And it's been such a precious tool in everything I do every single day. There's three main benefits to it. First, it lets you keep everything you learned in one place. You don't have to carry around 700 notebooks, and you don't really have to worry about losing any of it because it's all in this one centralized place that you can bring around wherever you go. And let me tell you, that keeps learning so simple and so free of frustration. The second benefit is that you can organize your knowledge. So whenever you need something, you know exactly where to find it. And the third benefit, probably my favorite, is that because you put everything in one place, you let the ideas mingle with each other. You give your knowledge the opportunity to connect and to form these exciting new ideas. So after creating your summary in the back of the book, which was the previous step, you now take that and move it to your archive. And maybe it doesn't have to be everything, but the most precious and valuable ideas you can take and move them to that archive. And that means wherever you go, whenever you need them, they'll always be there. And that's it. Those are the 5 steps of analysis. And I've used them for many years with a lot of success, and I hope you get the same out of it. And it might be difficult at first, but if you can take that method and apply it to books that are worth an analysis, you'll get better at it. And you'll find that you can suddenly take on any book you put your mind to. Reading becomes fun, it becomes more productive, and it becomes something that really gives you true wisdom and joy. I hope even one thing helped you there. And if you have any questions or experiences with it, something interesting to share, then feel free to email me. I respond to everything and I'd love to hear some of your experiences. And of course, thank you so much for watching.